Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aina Zakian binti Saiful Amin, and today I will be presenting my research topic, which is teachers' perception of students with troubled households. Moving on with the first slide, which is objective of study, which is to explore how a troubled household affects a student's mindset, the challenges faced by them, and how to overcome it. And when it comes to research gaps, which I found three, are external factors such as lack of funding and lack of time, internal factors such as lack of motivation, and lack of support from teachers, families, and friends. Moving on to the next slide, where I'll be talking about my research objectives. There are three of them. First of all, to examine how a student's household affects their learning in school and their future planning, to identify the best approaches and solutions to reduce challenges faced by students with troubled households when it comes to learning, and last but certainly not least, to identify how to motivate a student with a troubled household when it comes to their learning. And of course, my research questions correlates to my research objectives, which is why all of them are three by three. Moving on to my literature review, I found three articles from my literature review where the main point of them is their mismatch between theory and practice is confirmed, and they all highlight how students with troubled households should be taken more seriously, as we can see from our first article here, where broken homes result in unmotivated behavior and how students adopt habits shown from parents, including bad ones, where our author here used correlational descriptive methods for their research method. And for our second article, where they emphasized on broken homes and how students feel troubled, students from troubled households feel emotionally burdened when it comes to their findings. And their research method is descriptive research. The same just with the third article where it focuses their findings focuses on how teachers use adaptive methods when it comes to approaching these students and how the students' behavior stem from social and cultural background. And our author here used a qualitative interpretive research design. Moving on to theories, I've chosen three theories for my research, which are Bronfenbrenner's ecological theory, Kolb's theory of moral development, and Bandura's social cognitive theory. And I chose all of these three because they correlate to my research the most, they relate to my questions and answers the most. For my methodology, the method I use qualitative method with semi-structured interviews, and my data was analyzed by transcribing these interviews one by one and using thematic analysis. And for my data collection, I collected my data through online interviews by using Zoom and Google Meet, and where the teachers are required to respond to my questions that are about the research objectives. And for these teachers in general, for these teachers specifically, first we have teacher one, Cikgu Zakia Binti Jalun. She's a veteran teacher who has been teaching for 32 years. Meanwhile, teacher two, Cikgu Balkish Binti Muhammad Rashid, she's still a novice teacher, and because she's only been teaching for 3 years for Form 6 students. And then here are my interview questions. Moving on to my findings, where I focus on similarities and differences between responses for now. So, for similarities, I found that both of these teachers, their approaches in motivating the students are similar, where they both use positive reinforcement, such as encouraging them, giving them compliments, giving them gifts, and they also prioritize building trust when it comes to forming a relationship with their students. When it comes to differences, however, they both have different approaches when it comes to this. Where teacher one prefers to get the whole community involved in education, like including the Ketua Kampung. Meanwhile, teacher two prefers one-on-one interaction where she only prefers a teacher and student interaction. And their challenges faced are also different, where teacher one faces lack of funding and support from the students' parents themselves. Meanwhile, teacher two has difficulty in pinpointing which student is actually trouble. And for my main findings from my thematic analysis, where my motivation, so for research question one, which is issues and support, there are factors of troubled households, importance of counseling, negative behavior modeling, and teachers as mentors. Meanwhile, research question two focuses on approaches and solutions, where commitment to support students and teachers as positive role models are under this research question. Last but certainly not least, my research question three, motivation and encouragement, where creating a safe learning environment and positive reinforcement to encourage learning is practiced. Moving on to using evidence from literature and theories to support my findings. So, as first of all, importance of support, where according to National Research Council, support and resources should be provided by the schools themselves. Meanwhile, according to Teacher 1 and Teacher 2, you have the importance of support based is based off the formed bond within students to help them. And then for thoughtful approaches, according to Teacher 1 and Teacher 2, is to provide these students a safe space at school. And according to Teacher 1, is to establish a program where the school visits these troubled households to see what's actually going on behind closed doors. And last but certainly not least, encouraging motivation, where in accord with National Research Council, they said that creating continuous teacher-student relationships by restructuring urban schools. And according to Hargraves, when students believe in themselves, their motivation is the strongest. So, in conclusion, this is my summary. So, we can see from the slides that the similarities between the two teachers, that they both prefer positive reinforcement when it comes to their approaches, and meanwhile their differences is they have their own preferences in approaching the student themselves, and their challenges are also a bit different, but overall the challenges are funding, support, and hesitancy from the students themselves. Meanwhile, their motivation is encouragement and acknowledgement. Now, moving on to possible future research, which is first of all comparative research across age levels in schools, where you compare not only just between secondary schools, but between elementary or perhaps even kindergarten or perhaps even university as well. And professional involvement in schools, where perhaps there should be more professional counselors in schools. And teachers' expectation versus students' reality, where it focuses on how teachers' expectation on how a student face their problem is different with how the student actually faces their problem, and of course cross-cultural research. And then for my recommendations, I recommend the Ministry of Education to provide professional counseling in schools and emphasize on parents' involvement in schools. And for schools and administrators, I recommend to raise donations and acknowledge these troubled students instead of leaving them on the sidelines. And for parents and community, I suggest that they should support future in education, and they should lend a helping hand when it comes to their education without fully relying on the teachers. Meanwhile, for the teachers, I recommend that they should build teacher student relationship through trust themselves and to express understanding towards the students. Last but certainly not least, these are my references. There are quite a few. Thank you so much for watching my presentation.